Have you ever thought that we are not alone in the universe? That there are civilizations out there in the depths of space for which we are nothing but prey? Get ready to find out what happens when a hunter becomes a victim. In the deep reaches of space, at the edge of an unknown sector, an empire known as the Empyrean ruled. It was a formidable, imposing force whose rule had been based on fear for centuries. Empyreans believed that power was the only thing that mattered, and that lesser species existed only to serve them. They were renowned throughout the galaxy for their sinister tradition of the Great Hunt. Every hunting season, they would choose a weaker species and send the best hunters, the Chronos, to capture them. The trapped creatures were taken to the ominous sky, the dead moon, where cameras were installed for live streaming. The sight of the victims screaming, begging, and running away in panic made the Empyreans feel absolutely superior. During this hunting season, the scouts discovered a new target, Ethera. This planet with bluish-green oceans was home to unique life forms. Its inhabitants seemed shallow and emotional, and their history was full of conflict and greed. The Empyreans saw Ethera as an opportunity to add to their collection, but they greatly underestimated the endurance and determination of the Etherians. When the Empyreans were preparing for the invasion, the Etherians rallied and gave a powerful rebuff. Using their technological prowess and tactical ingenuity, they were able to defeat the Empyreans, proving that force is not the only way to victory. The Empyreans were defeated, and their dark legacy came to an end. In their ranks, they looked confused and embittered, which for them was a sign of weakness. "Perfect prey," one of the Empyrean generals growled. 10 Etherians were captured in their sleep in different parts of Ethera. They were drugged, shackled, and taken off planet before they could wake up. The Chronos paid no attention to whether they were capturing men, women, soldiers, or civilians. It didn't matter to them. They were just prey. On the day of the hunt, crowds gathered in Empyrean cities to watch. Giant screens lit up. The warriors cheered. The Chronos, clad in armor, stood proudly with their weapons. Their mission was one thing: to descend into the sky and hunt the Etherians until there was no one left. A countdown began on board the Empyrean warship over the moon. 10, 9, 8. Below, in the cages, the Etherians began to come to their senses. They were confused, scared, and hurt, but their eyes quickly focused. The first to stand up was a tall man with a broken nose and wore scars on his face. His name was Axel Rain. He was a former soldier. The Chronos hunters approached, but noticed something strange. The prey had disappeared. "They're running," one of them said. "They're hiding. They're watching us." The commander roared. "What are you talking about? Here they are. They're striking back." A video feed from one of the drones, and from the soldier, showed a flash of movement. The wolf jumped out of the treetops and knocked the soldier to the ground. The German used someone else's weapon against him before the camera malfunctioned. Panic broke out among the audience. It was no longer just entertainment. The commander considered it a stroke of luck, a rare surprise, and ordered the others to move together. However, as they went deeper into the jungle, they encountered traps. Nets woven from alien vines, pointed stakes, and swinging logs. One hunter lost a limb, and the other disappeared without a trace. On the home planet, the crowd fell silent. The laughter turned to fear. One camera captured a sight that made everyone freeze: an animal with a torn shirt and a face smeared with mud, standing alone by a tree, looking directly into the camera. His eyes were. Commander Chronos, a calm but cold figure, spoke only 3 words: "You started it." Then he retreated into the shadows. The council quickly interrupted the broadcast, not wanting the public to see more, but it was too late. Hunting is no longer a game. One of the last surviving Chronos sent his commander a final message before the signal was cut off. His voice was low and choked. "We thought we were hunters, but they're not prey, they're death in human form." The crew expected silence after the first day, believing that the Etherians would cry, break down and die like any other species. However, the jungle has become a place of terror for hunters. 3 Chronos warriors were dead, 2 were missing, and the rest were terrified, something the Chronos had never experienced before. The command ship over the jungle kept trying to reconnect with its hunters, but every message was the same: "We're not alone here, they're everywhere. They're alive." But now, it seemed, the Etherians had taken control of the situation. On the ground, Axel Rain crouched in the shade of a giant alien tree. His face was smeared with mud and his hands were covered with bruises, but his eyes were sharp and focused. He watched as a patrol of Empyreans passed by, their weapons raised, their movements careful. "They're changing tactics, getting closer." They're afraid, Mira whispered from behind him. Axel nodded slowly. Okay, fear slows them down. He trained soldiers, fought in cities and deserts, but this jungle was an unfamiliar territory. However, war never really changes. You learn from the terrain, manage fear, and turn the situation to your advantage. A day ago, the Etherians were strangers. They were a single entity now, united by survival instinct, teamwork, and anger. Axel was giving orders. Mila took care of the wounded and set traps, while a young woman named Leia hacked into the Kronos drone using only fragments of metal. It's an instinct. A quiet man named Orion moved through the trees like a ghost. He was once a ranger in the depths of the forests of Ethera. He was more than that now. On the Empyrean ship, the command center was in a state of chaos. One of the commanders shouted, "This is unbelievable. They're primitive." But the data on the screen contradicted this. The heat signatures of the dead Etherians multiplied, communications were disrupted, and Empyrean weapons were missing. Someone whispered, "They're learning from us." Above them, the council was silent. No jubilation, no laughter, just questions. Who are these Etherians? Why are they fighting like this? Why are they winning? The Etherians did not rest at night. They went deeper into the jungle, occupying the old Empyrean landing site to recharge their power cells and examine enemy equipment, sending a message back to Ethera. Kayla climbed a tall tree with a stolen Empyrean transmitter. She looked at the red twins of the sky and said softly, "This is Kayla Volkova. Ethera, if you can hear me, I'm being persecuted, but I'm not a victim. I'm fighting. I'm surviving. I'm winning," she paused, then stated. "And if they think it's a game, tell them the game is over." On the other side of the universe, deep under the oceans of Ethera, a listening post picked up a signal. The alarm went off. The commanders woke up. One voice said, "They've discovered us." Another voice replied, "No, we found them." Returning to the sky, Scout Kronos moved too far away from his unit. He thought he was alone, but he was wrong. Orion came out of the shadows, silent as a breeze, and hit him hard. Kronos fell, groaning in pain. Orion didn't kill him. Instead, he left him tied to a tree with a trap made by the Etherians hanging above him. Later, another Kronos found him and wrote 4 words on a tree in blood. "You are the prey." The jungle has been transformed. The Etherians have changed. Kronos have hunted countless species, but never like this. I've never looked at anyone who's adapted so quickly. Never anyone who met death and refused to run. The young Kronos, who had barely completed his training, whispered to his captain, "What if we made a mistake?" The captain did not answer, because deep down he already knew that they had made the most serious mistake in the history of their empire. Silence reigned in the icy darkness of space. The war room, located deep inside the Ethera defense base, was filled with anticipation. The transmission from Mira finally reached its destination, but the signal was weak and distorted. The message was clear: we were being chased, and we fought and won. General Storm stood in front of the big screen with his arms folded and his jaw clenched. Around him were the leaders of the unified military command of Ethera, men and women from every nation. None of them spoke, none of them blinked, because they all knew what it meant. It wasn't a rescue mission, it was a warning. "Who are these hunters?" one voice asked. The AI engineered the data. Tall reptilian species called Empyreans, highly evolved and known for their cruelty. They prey on weaker races for the sake of sport, choosing planets with low technology as their targets. The AI continued, "They're watching, they're hunting, they're laughing." One commander stood up, slamming his fist on the table. "We are not the species they chose." Another added, "But we won't be their prey." General Storm's voice was icy. "They don't know our history." While the Ethera response team was preparing ships and arming them in the sky, the jungle was completely transformed. The Kronos no longer hunted, they hid in the trees, under the fog and shadows. The situation has changed. The Etherians had been moving at night, building traps out of alien materials, studying their opponents' every weakness, and now they were preparing to strike. Axel Rain was standing over a rough map drawn on the ground, and Kayla, Orion, and Leia were gathered around. He pointed out 3 key locations, Empyrean communications posts. "If we hit all 3, he said, we'll blind them." Kayla nodded in agreement, then Axel's voice dropped. "Then we attack their camp," he continued. "But they don't have Etherian weapons, but they do have Kronos, and each captured Kronos provides them with more tools each cycle." The Etherians grew stronger with each cycle, while the Kronos weakened. On the Empyrean command ship, The fear turned to panic as the reports from the jungle became increasingly alarming. One commander shouted, "We have to retreat. These creatures are not prey, they are monsters." Another growled, "They were just lucky," but deep down, everyone knew that it wasn't luck, it was nature, and in this jungle, the Etherians had become a real top predator. In a remote corner of the galaxy, the Galactic Council was receiving reports of chaos. The reconnaissance drone captured the only image of the Etherian, covered in blood, holding an Empyrean rifle and looking directly into the camera. The connection ended a few moments later, leaving only this image, cold, angry, fearless. One council member whispered that they should warn the others, but it was too late. Ethera saw the broadcast, and Ethera remembered her people. 3 massive warships launched from orbit, carrying no diplomats, no negotiators, just soldiers and silence. The Rage, the lead ship, carried only rage. The jungle is ours. The last order was given. The message spread across the galaxy, and the galaxy heard the truth. The Empyreans were no longer hunters. They became prey. The forest of the sky transformed, no longer belonging to the Empyreans. The air was filled with smoke and fear. Bonfires burned where hunters had once camped, and the trees whispered stories of blood, not from animals, but from the Empyreans themselves. The Etherians were no longer hiding, moving swiftly, cunningly, and deadly. For the first time in its long history of hunting, it was the Chronos that were hunted. Orion and Kayla moved silently through the undergrowth, having destroyed another Empyrean patrol moments earlier. Orion wiped the blood from his face and looked up at the sky. "They're falling apart," he said. Kayla nodded, watching the dark clouds overhead. "We adapt, we learn, we survive," she said. New survivors joined them, forming small groups scattered through the forest. The jungle, once wild, has been transformed by Axel into a deadly landscape, into a pack of wolves. This jungle was their domain. On a spaceship orbiting the sky, the crew was in a state of panic. Lord Valian, the supreme commander of the Empyrean fleet, slammed his hand on the control panel. "They're just Etherians." "Stop it," he roared. "Primitive, weak." But no one answered. The data revealed another truth. Dozens of Empyrean units had been lost, communications towers destroyed, Etherian forces growing stronger, their technology stolen and repurposed. Ethera's ships were now venturing into deep space. The Hammer of Silence moved faster than most ships of its size. Commander Aliona stood on the bridge with her arms folded behind her back, her eyes cold. "Estimated arrival time?" "What is it?" she asked. "A watch," her subordinate replied. Aliona nodded and ordered the assault groups to prepare. She turned to the porthole and watched the stars blur outside the window. She looked at the reports and watched the videos. The Chronos captured her people. The Etherians taunted the aliens by chasing them. "Let's see how they'll laugh now," Kayla whispered in the sky. Axel Rain stood in front of a table covered with shards of alien armor. "The aliens have set up a base deep in the jungle. They have no technology other than what they stole, but their instincts have served them well," he said, studying the map and pointing to the last alien base. "This is their backup position, heavily defended. If we destroy it, the aliens will be exposed. They will have nowhere to retreat to." Kayla considered this, her eyes narrowed. Axel smiled, and that smile didn't touch his eyes. "Let's show them what happens when the Etherians stop running." Night fell, and the jungle became quiet. But this silence was not peaceful. It was a warning. And then the Etherians attacked. Not like soldiers, but like predators, out of the trees, out of the mud, out of the darkness. Grenades created from Chronos weapons, knives from ship parts, traps that tore armor. The Chronos guards screamed as the shadows tore them apart. Some tried to escape, but came under fire. Kayla led the charge, her hands steady and her eyes burning. She threw a grenade into the base's fuel depot, and the explosion lit up the sky. On the warship, Lord Valian watched in horror as the signal from their base was cut off. He turned to his officers. "Prepare the escape pod. We're leaving." But one of them said, "Sir, reinforcements will be here soon. When they arrive, there will be nothing left." At that moment, another alarm sounded. "A new ship has arrived. In orbit. An Etherian warship, large, fast, and heavily armed. The Hammer of Silence. Commander Aliona has opened a channel on all frequencies." Her voice was calm and controlled as she addressed the Empyrean ship above the sky. "Your time is up," she said. "You were hunting our people, you heard our screams. This is going to end now. Leave or burn." The Empyrean ship fired first, but the Hammer of Silence returned direct and devastating fire. Their weapons pierced through the Empyrean shields like paper, and in just a few moments, the Empyrean warship was shattered and began to fall from orbit. On the ground, Axel and the others watched as the burning trail in the sky turned into a falling Empyrean warship. Kayla whispered. Axel smiled grimly and said, "No, this is justice." They stood in silence as the flaming Empyrean warship crashed deep into the jungle, becoming the final warning to all who were watching. The jungle shook, and then there was silence. No more screams and roars, just silence and ashes. The galaxy watched in disbelief as this insignificant species, classified as primitive, showed its strength and determination. They just destroyed the Kronos. In the hunting forest, they shot down one of their command ships, but one survived. They fought back and took one of our own. And across the galaxy, other species have taken notice. Whispers began. The Etherians are not prey, the Etherians are something else. The jungle was silent now, ashes still lingering in the air, the wreckage of the Empyrean warship embedded deep into the ground like a scar. The smell of burnt metal and smoke could be heard for miles, but the battle was over for now. Axel Rain stood next to Kayla on the edge of the cliff, watching the dawn break through the fog. Survivors gathered around them, soldiers, scientists, and workers. The people who were once hunted were free, but none of them celebrated. Because they all knew it wasn't the end, it was just the beginning. Above the planet, the Hammer of Silence remained in orbit, scanning all transmissions. Commander Aliona watched the reports coming from Ethera, the Moon Base, and the Martian Command. Major news networks across the galaxy were talking about the same thing. The headlines were terrifying for most alien races. The Etherian captives survived the Kronos hunt, and the warship was destroyed by Etherian forces. The Galactic Council has been silent about the Etherian retaliation, leading many to wonder if Etherian is a new threat. Commander Aliona didn't smile or look proud, she just felt tired. She muttered, "Let them talk, let them listen." Meanwhile, in a quiet Soviet room light years away, the Galactic Core Assembly was in chaos. Representatives of more than 70 advanced alien civilizations sat in panic. The Kronos delegation was silent, their seats were empty. Others shouted at each other, asking how the Etherians could create such weapons if they were classified as primitive and harmless. One elder, Gil, a representative of the Skids, stood up and calmly said, "No, they were never harmless. We just never paid attention." Another, younger alien asked, "What should we do now?" Jalen's eyes narrowed as he replied, "We stop underestimating them." In the sky, Kayla was recording a message. Her voice was calm, her eyes were steady. "This is Kayla, the survivor of the Empyrean hunt. If you're hearing this, we want to tell you something that Ethera remembers. We don't forget or forgive Elia. They tried to make us their prey, to break us, but instead they taught us how to fight as one." She paused, then continued, "We're not running anymore." Kayla sent a message to Ethera's command, but she also broadcast it on an open channel, as a warning, or maybe as a promise. The Etherians were soon evacuated from the sky by the ships of the fleet. Axel was the last to leave. He stood at the edge of the jungle and stuck a small flag in the ground, the flag of Ethera, not to claim the planet, but to mark it as sacred, not for victory, but for survival. Then he boarded the ship and took one last look down. A few weeks later, strange things began to happen in the galaxy. Near Vega Prime, a group of pirates tried to hijack an etheric cargo ship, but something unexpected happened. The ship was not captured, it was saved by a mysterious force. The pirates were defeated, and the etheric crew was safe. The story of Kayla and her companions, who survived the Empyrean hunt, became known throughout the galaxy, inspiring others to stand up for what is right. The Ethera flag has become a symbol of hope, reminding everyone that even in the darkest times there is always light. The Etherians did not flee. They were fighting. The pirates did not survive on the desolate planet near the outer rim. The alien mercenaries laughed as they ambushed a group of etheric settlers. The settlers used agricultural implements as weapons. The mercenaries ran away. Such stories began to spread, turning into fear. Don't touch the Etherians. Don't anger Ethera. They're not afraid of death like we are. One day, on the Black Market space station, 2 alien bounty hunters were sitting in silence. One of them was tapping on his screen, which displayed a reward for an alien named Milo. "Is it still open?" asked another. The first hunter shook his head. "No way, you haven't heard. She survived the Kronos hunt. She was there when the warship crashed." "Then why is the reward still hanging?" The hunter leaned closer, whispering, Because someone is stupid enough to think that she is still prey. Both of them laughed nervously until the etheric shadow moved behind them in the alley. I was learning the truth. The Etherians weren't the strongest species, or the smartest, or the fastest. But we were the most dangerous because we were impossible to break. You could outnumber us, you could even kill us, but if you failed even once, we would come back like a fire that never goes out. We don't forget the pain, we don't run away forever, we learn and evolve, and then we hunt. The stars above Ethera were peaceful, but a defense system was being built deep below the surface of Ethera. Commander Aliona was standing in front of a large screen showing an incoming signal. It wasn't a distress signal or a call, it was a message from the powerful Thrax Dominion Empire from the outer sectors. They were brave, cruel, and proud, and they did not learn from the mistakes of the Chronos. Their message was simple. We are not afraid of Ethera, you are just lucky savages. We will bring your family to its knees. They even attached a video of an etheric outpost attacked and destroyed by Thrax troops. There were more bodies and blood. Another mistake. Aliona didn't say. She turned around and gave one order. Activate protocol. Ghost Fong. In the dark void at the edge of Thrax space, 5 etheric stealth ships glided silently through the stars. Without warning, without threats. They moved like ghosts. Each carried only 10 soldiers. But not just any soldier. They were elite phantom operatives trained for deep strikes, survival, and terror. Their mission was not to conquer, not to occupy, but simply to send a message to the world planet. The truck's training base towered with over 3,000 soldiers. At midnight, the first alarm went off. By 12:10 the electricity went out. By 12:30, the base was engulfed in flames. Screams echoed in the darkness, but there was no enemy in sight. The cameras captured only fleeting glimpses of shadows moving too fast. By dawn, the base was silent. There were no survivors, just a message carved into the wall in deep plasma. Enemy, you hunted us. Now we're hunting you. The Galactic Council demanded answers. They summoned Ethera to appear before them. Commander Aliona arrived alone, without any guards or ships in orbit. She stood in the council chamber, surrounded by hundreds of alien leaders, and waited. The chairman of the council, an elderly leader with an armored appearance named Ashesh, leaned forward. Did you give the order to attack the world base? Aliona met his gaze. Did you stop them from killing our civilians? Silence. We did not start this conflict, but we will not back down. Another alien delegate shouted. Ethera is a threat to the world. Aliona nodded. We are like that. If peace means allowing you to kill our people without resistance, then yes, we are dangerous. She turned around and left. No one tried to stop her. After that, the news spread quickly. The phrase Summit Protocol began to appear on illegal news channels and in underground media. Stories flooded in. The battleship trucks disappeared near Mars, leaving no trace. The slave market that sold Etherians turned to glass overnight. An etheric prisoner escaped from an alien research facility and killed everyone before disappearing. Most species didn't believe it at first, but fear is stronger than facts. Now the alien captains are warning their crews. If you encounter an etheric vessel, do not approach. If you capture Etherts, release him. If Ethera is involved, leave. Axel Rain and Milo returned to Ethera. They weren't looking for fame, they didn't need honors, they were educating the next generation. Their focus shifted from combat to strategy. They taught their students the value of silence, patience, and precision. Axel said, "War is not anger. This is survival and ensuring that our enemy does not win." Milo added, "The universe is unfair, but we are not looking for justice. Our goal is to make sure that we don't become prey." Their classes were always full, because the Etherians knew that the struggle was far from over. Some still believed that the Etherians were bluffing, that the Etherians would not be able to rise again, that the Etherians would sink into obscurity. But the wisest alien leaders did not share this belief. They observed patterns and saw the truth. Every empire that hunted the Etherians is now either destroyed or in decline. Every species that had underestimated Ethera was now afraid of her silence. And Ethera wasn't bragging. She didn't make any noise. She waited like a predator in the shadows. Eventually, the galaxy discovered a fundamental truth. The Etherians did not seek to rule. They just wanted to be left alone. However, if you try to restrict them, chase them, or destroy them, they won't escape. They will keep their memories. And they will come back to confront you.